Every services team that I talk to has the same ambition: make our work repeatable. Whether you're trying to move towards fixed fee engagements or onboard new consultants faster or just stop reinventing the wheel every project, it all starts with the same question: what does standard look like for us? And that question is surprisingly hard to answer. Your best solution architects carry it in their heads, maybe it lives in old SOWs, but there's no single structured definition of here's what we do, here's what it includes, and here's what makes it more or less complex. So what happens? Every project feels bespoke, not necessarily because the client needs something that's super custom, but because you don't have a shared definition of what's standard. Senior consultants and SAs are spending their time on routine scoping instead of digging into the complex and nuanced problems that they're really great at and also that they enjoy. That also is the work that's differentiating for you, right? The complicated consultative work where you're really advising the client and being a partner, not just configuring a tool. But if your senior people are spending their time on routine stuff, that's the work that gets squeezed. And if leadership wants to start moving towards fixed fee engagements, which is something that I'm seeing very broadly, nobody can really say what the margin is going to be if you don't have this concept of standard. I will say, I do hear this sometimes. Some people do have something. Maybe you have an accelerator or a quick start package. It's usually one of two things. Either it's a big hammer, you get what you get, take it or leave it, which doesn't actually solve the client's specific problems, or it's a fixed list of deliverables. You get 3 custom objects and 6 permission sets and a dashboard, which sounds standard, but it's not actually a definition of your services. It's just like a quantity of things. Neither of those help you answer the question that you really need to answer, which is for this specific client, what is standard, what's a stretch, and what have we never done before? The library answers that question. Let me show you how. This is your library. It's your repository of modular, structured work that you've done before, organized so that you can deliver it consistently across projects. We have 2 levels. Categories are the big groups of work, like CRM data migration and sales operations configuration. And then within each category, you have capabilities, which are specific chunks of work. So under sales operations config, we have CPQ, deal pipeline, lead scoring, and sales reporting and dashboard config. If I click into one of these, each capability has a description, the typical hours that it takes to deliver, scope items, so what this work actually includes, the Glossa projects that are already using this capability, some assumptions, and complexity drivers, the things that make this more expensive or risky. What this means is that anyone on your team who opens this up has the context to scope and deliver this work, even if they've never done it before. You can also see where the capability came from and how it's changed over time. Everything is traceable. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great, but this sounds like a lot of work to set up. Nope. You build a library by importing your historical SOWs. So you upload a few past statements of work, and Glossa extracts the capabilities, the scope items, the assumptions, and the complexity drivers automatically. I'll show you because it's really quick and it's really easy. You just upload it, Glossa reads through it, extracts the work, and merges it into what's already here. So if a capability already exists, Glossa enriches it with what it learned from this SOW, and if it finds something new, it creates a new entry. So you can have a library up and running from just a couple of SOWs in like 10 minutes. So now you have a single structured definition of the work that you do, and this is your definition of what standard looks like. And it is the foundation for everything else that I'm about to show you. So you have your library. Let's see what happens when a real project comes in. This is Cascade. They're moving to HubSpot. We've had a couple of discovery calls with them, and Glossa captured those calls and generated requirements. That's the core Glossa workflow. So here are the requirements that came out of those conversations. They're drafted, prioritized, organized by AI, and these are still your client's requirements in their language, each one traceable back to the exact moment in the conversation where they said it. That part doesn't change. What the library adds is a second layer, so one that translates what the client is asking for into the structured, repeatable work of your business. So you have both. You have the client's perspective and your team's perspective side by side. So now if I go to the capability review, I can see how these requirements compare against what's in the library. This is the question that we asked at the beginning. For this specific client, what's standard, what's a stretch, and what have we never done before? This screen answers it. So we have 3 buckets. Let's start with the high confidence matches. These requirements clearly map to something in your library. On the left, we have the suggested library match, which includes the scope, assumptions, complexity drivers, and on the right, the requirement from the client. So this work, the scope, the assumptions, complexity, is defined once and delivered consistently. Your team isn't reinventing it every project, even though client language varies. They're executing a repeatable capability. Next, we have needs review. So Glossa found a possible match but isn't confident. Maybe the client describes something that partially overlaps with the library capability or combines two things. And this is where your expertise comes in, right? You look at it, you decide if it's right. And this is often where you find the nuance too. Like the client wants something that's close to what you've done before, but with a twist. That's the kind of stuff that used to get lost and show up as a surprise during delivery. But now, with all of Glossa's features, you can catch this early. Last, we have unmatched. These don't match anything in your library, and that is valuable, right? This tells you either you've done this work before, but you've never formalized it, or it is something that is actually genuinely new. Maybe this is something that sales discuss that's outside your standard offering. Never happens. Either way, you know it needs extra attention, and you know it now, not once build has already started. So, in about 30 seconds, you can see this project is mostly standard work that you've already defined. There's one thing that needs a closer look, and a couple things that might be genuinely new. Knowing this upfront means that you can staff the project appropriately, you can price it with confidence, even if you're not doing T&M, and you can know where the risk is before the project kicks off. Basically, this allows you to scale your projects without sacrificing the consultative approach that makes your clients successful. And frankly, that's your differentiator too. Because with Glossa, your standard work is handled. Your team's energy can go to the parts that actually really need it. One more thing, and this is what makes the library a living system, not a static document. For this unmatched requirement, you have a couple of options here. You can cancel it, it's outside your offering, you're not going to do it. You can keep it as project specific, a one off. You can manually match it to something that's already in the library, or most importantly, you can add it to the library. So let's say that you realize this is something that actually should be part of your standard offering. AI defines the scope, adds assumptions, sets complexity drivers in a generic and reusable way. And now it's in the library, so the next time a client asks for this, it matches automatically. The same thing happens for needs review when you update a library entry or when you create a new one. This is the feedback loop that's at the heart of the library. Every project, every requirement either confirms your library is right or teaches it something new. Your library after 10 projects isn't just bigger, it's a more accurate picture of what you actually do. And that is what lets you grow without every project feeling like the first time. So that's the library. It's how you go from we're great at implementations, but everyone is bespoke to we have a defined and repeatable set of services that gets better with every project. And that is also the difference between a services team that scales with people and a services team that scales with process. The library is available now in beta. If you want to try it, reach out to me directly. I would love to walk you through it with your own data. Thank you for watching.